Hello, fantasy baseball fans. I'm Paul Williamson. This is Fantasy MLB Today, a Sports Ethos presentation brought to you by FanDuel. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to give y'all this podcast, give y'all some information, advice, and help you win the leads, give you the boost. Before we get the conversation for today, we're of course have a weekend update on Monday. We're going to go over all the key injuries and performances from over the weekend and how it impacts your fantasy teams. Remind you to follow me on Twitter at Paul W underscore 34. That's at Paul W underscore 34 to get more of me asking questions. Hit me up. Let's go win those titles, y'all. We're in the stretch run of playoff leagues, those head-to-head leagues, roto leagues. All you're trying to pad your stats, different categories, in order to secure your roto ranking there, or try to catch up to gain some roto points. So let me know what ails you or troubles you. I'll be there to help you out. Then also make sure you follow the Sports Ethos Fantasy Baseball accounts at Ethos Fantasy BB on Twitter, at Ethos Fantasy MLB on Bluesky, where we now have streaming options coming from Larry Venozzi. They'll be dropping over the weekend. The first one dropped today on Monday, so make sure you check that out. And also, of course, we have that blurb feed. Go to the sportsethos.com, go to the MLB tab, and pick up the blurb feed there, all the free fantasy baseball analysis that you need to help you win. And then also, please rate and subscribe to the podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcast on Apple, Spotify, at Audible, wherever. And of course, on YouTube at Sports Ethos, on the Sports Ethos YouTube channel already. So we're going to give you I'm going to give you the stream of the day for Tuesday. This pod is being recorded on Monday. So for Tuesday, you can go out and pick up Patrick Sandoval going up against the Toronto Blue Jays. Sandoval's currently 15% roster on Yahoo, so he should be widely available. And the Toronto Blue Jays have been the worst offense against lefties since the beginning of July. They've got a 60 WRC plus, a 288 on the WOBA. We're looking at a 0.76 on their team ISO, a 561 on the team OPS, a 23% team strikeout rate. And Patrick Sandoval has been looking pretty good since he came back from a lengthy injury that's cost him much of the last year plus. And over his 5 starts, 24 innings, he has a nice 3.38 on the ERA. The ERA estimators don't really like him all that much, but he does have a 3.86 bat bit. So he's been producing a good ERA despite an elevated bat bit. He has a 22.9% strikeout rate, an 86.4 average exit velocity, 4.1 on the barrel. The walks are a little high at 9%, but that's just kind of going to happen when you have a guy who's been gone for so long. And so he's going to have a little bit of command and control problems this soon off of a lengthy injury absence. But you do have to like the 11% on the swinging strike rate, which is really close to where it was prior to the injury. Remember, Sandoval was a big hype guy before he got hurt there in Los Angeles with the Angels. He is someone that had a lot of potential before the injury, so it's good to see he's got some of that swing and miss back to his arsenal. He's looking at a 30% whip rate on the slider, a 41% whip rate on the changeup, and these are his two most used secondaries that pairs nicely. Those two glove side pitches pair nicely with the force seam and sinker combination that go to the arm side, and he's able to execute that arsenal pretty well right now. And so I'm really in on Patrick Sandoval right now, especially whenever he has a matchup like against the Blue Jays. And for rest of season, he should be a pretty decent option. You're probably not going to start him against top 10 offenses, but he's definitely someone you're starting against most offenses in the majors. That makes him a pretty a fringe 12-team ad for the rest of the year if you got room on your bench for a guy that you're going to stream while he's stream and then bench if you can, kind of dude. He is worth the spot if you can afford it, but he's not like a must add in my opinion. Those 12 teams, deep leagues though, make sure he's not rostered. If you're in a deeper than 12-team league, he needs to be on rosters. And the FanDuel bet of the day is going to be Jacob Lopez over just 4.5 strikeouts over there with plus 108 on the odds here. So you got plus money going for an arm like Jacob Lopez, who has been on a tear when it comes to strikeouts. See the 31.8% strikeout rate, a 69.5% contact or overall contact. So sub 70% there with a 14.3 swing and strike rate. Look, I know he's facing the Rays. The Rays don't strike out a whole lot. However, I do think that he is an arm that gets enough strikeouts to get to just 5, right? Like it's just 4.5 of the over-under here. So it's not like we're asking him to get 7 strikeouts here. I think he could definitely get 5 strikeouts against the Rays, just 4.5, man, plus money as well. I think is a great bet to take advantage of for Monday evening. So let's get into some key performances from over the weekend and how it ties into fantasy. Yeah, I'm also going to be talking about a handful of bats that are widely available, and I think they can be a real huge boost for a lot of teams, especially headed into the playoffs, going into the stretch run. Teams, players that can give you sneaky value that are widely available that can help you get to your playoffs. But I'll begin with Esmerlyn Valdez. And in the month of August, he has a very odd slash. He's batting below 100. This 0.48, which is atrocious. But the on-base percentage is 394, and the slug matches the batting average. He doesn't have an extra base hit at all in the month of August, also sitting at 0.48. Now, look, he doesn't have a homer in the month, only 1 run, only 1 RBI, but he has a 36% walk rate of 48% on the strikeout rate. Listen, we've always known Esmerlyn Valdez as a very selective hitter. He doesn't chase outside the zone, which is awesome, right? But he also doesn't make a lot of contact. And this is what I talk about when I talk about these major prospects that have major power upside, but a massive floor. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Same thing with a guy like Spencer Jones. Same thing with the names who escape me. That's why I'm in on guys like Kalen Culpepper and George Lombard that have really good hit tools in the majors. While they might not have the same elite upside as someone like a Valdez or a Jones does, they certainly have enough power in their bat to justify adding them to your rosters to go with a good batting average and steals for them. But for Valdez and Jones, in particular right now, we're talking about Valdez. Over the last 105 plate appearances, it does have 7 home runs, which is a really good number. However, he does have a 38% strikeout rate this time, batting just 190, just an end zone contact rate of only 68%, an overall contact rate of 60%, with an 18% on the swinging strike rate. Now, yes, he does have things like a 20% barrel rate and a 59% on the hard hit rate, but it's not like he's making the type of contact like the guy I always turn to when I point to what you need to be a successful power hitter with a terrible hit tool, and that's Kyle Schwarber. Right, he's at least in the high 60s, low 70s on the overall contact, whereas Valdez is not. Valdez said at 60%. The end zone contact rate is only 68%. That's freaking atrocious, y'all. So I think that Valdez, in my opinion, is kind of still who I thought he was. He is someone who is a power play. If you're in a roto league, go take a look at your categories. If you are well behind on batting average, you have to cut Valdez. Or if you're trying to protect your batting average lead, you have to cut Valdez because he is a major threat to that right now. If you need power, however, if you're looking at your home run totals, you're like middle of the pack, you're just behind the next few guys ahead of you, and you need some pop, Valdez can give you that pop, but he's also going to destroy your batting average. So keep an eye on that. Make sure you are well aware of what your team is giving you and what your team is not giving you. And Valdez fits a very specific team mold at this point. He is not someone that you can roster if you're trying to nurse a batting average lead or you're trying to gain batting average roto points. He's going to kill you there. Same thing with your things like runs. If you're needing to score runs, he's also going to be a poor contributor there. And in fact, even RBI is a situation where are these home runs going to be multi-run home runs or just solo shots? And so the RBI are also pretty questionable here for Valdez. It is just home runs. And so make sure that you can take the batting average hit and you don't need counting stats because those are where he's going to hurt you. But he's going to provide you home runs. I don't think there's a doubt about that. The only question is, what else is he going to provide you? And the answer is not much. All right. So we're going to move on to Cam Smith, a guy who I've been high on for quite some time, and we're finally starting to see him put it all together. It's taken a bit longer than I would have liked. But hey, you know what? Better late the devil or never. Young bats, young players always need a little extra seasoning sometimes. Takes a little bit for them to really catch on. Cam Smith was benched for a full series approximately 2 weeks ago. And ever since then, he's been on a tear. We're looking at a guy over his last 39 plate appearances, I believe. We're looking in 11 games. He has 2 home runs, both of which came on Friday. He has a 270 on the ISO. He's slashing 351, 385, 263. He's improved the ground ball rate this time to 37%. He has a decent barrel rate, 8.3% and 45% on the hard hit rate. However, the year to date on that barrel rate is 11.4%. He has a solid hit tool or good enough hit tool with a 73% overall contact rate. You love to see that. An 82% end zone contact rate at 77% 77 mile an hour on the bat speed. So he's got a great bat speed, making really good contact, making a lot of contact overall, or not a lot of contact overall, but enough contact overall to help him provide you a decent enough batting average to go with some power. That batting average is going to translate to more runs and RBI, going to get on base more, going to get hits with runners on base, get you RBI. So he's better, and he's going to get you some counting stats as well. And so I do like Cam Smith here. He is currently 11% rostered, one of these guys who I think can provide you with really good sneaky value down the stretch run. So if you're hunting for a playoff spot and you're looking for a league-winning type ad, and I think Cam Smith is that, given the tools, given the prospect upside, the prospect pedigree that he has, and we're looking at the overall metrics have been pretty good for him this year. The question right now has always been, in my opinion, when and not if. And I think we're seeing the win. We're starting to see him provide the power, provide a good batting average, provide the type of production that you're hoping to get. And he's got some speed too. And so I think he's a potential 5 category producer for the rest of the year. I think that you really need to get him on your rosters right now before it's too late. Another guy who is widely available, only 5% rostered. He's a platoon bat, so keep an eye on the matchups for the week. But right now, this week, he has 6 straight right-handers preferred FanGraphs probables grid, and so he's got really good matchups this week. I'm starting him all over the place. And it's Griffin Conine. Over his last 81 plate appearances, he has 81 homers, 8 RBI, 8 homers, 15 RBI. Looking at a 270 on the batting average, 608 on the slug, 338 on the isolated power. That's really, really good. He's got excellent StatCast numbers. Looking at a 93 mile an hour on the X velocity, 18% on the barrel rate, 52.1% on the hard hit rate. The hit tool for Conine, of course, is going to be his downfall here. This is kind of like an Esmerlyn Valdez type, where you're going to ride him while he's hot. He's got just a 64% contact rate and a 17% on the swinging strike rate. So the floor does exist with Griffin Conine. So we're probably going to see him go through a stretch like we're seeing from Valdez for right now. But I think for this week in particular, and for the next however long this lasts, you got to have him on your rosters. You got to start him. He is someone that can help your team get to the playoffs. See, the floor might hit when the playoffs start, but for right now, you're trying to get into the playoffs. Griffin Conine is someone who's right there, readily available for you on your wires. He's got great matchups this week, so make sure he's not available. He is someone who I'm riding right now, and you're going to keep an eye on the strikeouts, keep an eye on the production, keep an eye on the batting average in particular, because that can all fall off for him. But for right now, he's hot, and ride him while he's hot. Let's talk about Jackson Merle and his season turnaround. I mean, it was not looking good there for a while. I called him a buy low on the podcast a couple months ago, and I called him a buy low on the blurb feed as well. And Jackson Merrill has really, really proven me right, making me look like a real smart fella. And I'm loving it, and it's looking real good. I'm so glad I held on. I did not bench him, or I have him, because I was in on him big time on the Williamson 300. He was a big offseason buy for me, and we're finally starting to see it. Over his last 104 plate appearances, he has 9 home runs and 4 steals, 19 runs, 21 RBI, 296 on the ISO. The slash is a beautiful 337, 365, 637. The StatCast numbers are where you want it to be. 92 on the X velocity, 19% on the barrel, 53% on the hard hit rate. The end zone contact sent at 85%. Always had good end zone contact numbers, which is why I was always a big believer in him, with a 77% on the overall contact, 12.8 on the swinging strike. So good enough on the hit tool, enough contact inside his thumb to access his elite power numbers. The one thing I'm watching, though, is that the outside swing rate this time is 42%. That's got to come down. And historically in his career, he's been a mid-30s outside swing rate guy. So he's always had a little bit of chase to his game. But right now, the chase is kind of insane. I do expect that to eventually correct, but I definitely want to see it come down. That's the one thing I'm looking, at least in terms of how I'm going to view him next year. If he goes on a real hot streak at the end of the year, but he doesn't get the chase under control, I might be a little worried. But if he can get that chase under control and continue to produce like he has been, then I'm going to be all in on him once again next year. He's going to be, the market might though catch up, and so I might not be a major buy because the ADP might catch up to where I think his value is. So what to see about that. But I'm definitely you got to keep an eye on that chase. Got to keep an eye on the outside swing rate because that's going to be his Achilles heel. But historically, he's been a mid-30s dude. And you can live with mid-30s, especially when you have an end zone contact rate like he has, an overall contact, good hit tool. As long as he's not chasing overly too much and keep it a little bit under control, I'm going to be really in on Jacksonville in 2027, if there is a 2027. Whatever. We're going to live in the now, and let's move on. We're going to talk about another guy who is widely available and is really picking up steam, and I think it's more legit than you may think, and that's Tim Tawa over in Arizona in the desert. Ever since he got called up in favor of Blue James Grover, it's been fantastic. That's a 98 plate appearances. He has 4 home runs, 14 runs, 14 RBI. The strikeouts are under control at 22.4%. He has a really good slash of 275 and a 299. He doesn't walk much. 462 on the slug. The big thing here is that he's not putting the ball in the dirt as much. He has a 41% ground ball rate on the year, is a 47% ground ball rate. So you love to see that. He's always had really good bat speed numbers, always had the ability to make really good contact with the ball. The question is, was he able to really put it all together and show us that ability? He is right now with a 92 mile per hour X velocity, 9.7 on the barrel, 52% on the hard hit rate. He's so Tim Tawa has always been someone I've been mildly intrigued by. He's just someone who's got a good bat speed, but can he utilize that bat speed to make enough contact in the zone, and get to a point where he can show us the exit velocities, the hard hit metrics that we know he is capable of doing. He is doing it now. He is doing exactly what we're looking to see. I got a feeling he's going to be like next year's Casey Schmidt in the terms that he's going to be kind of a fringe bitch piece that's always kind of shown really good StatCast numbers, really good potential flashes of what he can do, and all he needs is a full-time role to show it. And I think right now we're starting to see it. We're starting to see him in a full-time role provide what we're hoping he could provide. And so it might be a little bit more of a he might not be as much of a sleeper as Schmidt was this year, in my opinion, because if he breaks out and he continues this trend this year, then he's going to lock down a starting spot for the Diamondbacks next year, and he's not going to be a major sleeper, even though I have to see how high his ADP soars. But man, Tim Tawa is looking real good right now. He is someone that has got multi-position flexibility. If you got to find some sneaky pop, somebody who can really push your team into the playoffs with solid production across the board, batting for a Diamondbacks team that is in the hunt, right? They are contenders. They've got enough offense right now to win. And so there's going to be a little more counting stats here. Good batting average, good power. Tim Tawa is someone who I'm definitely in on. And there's really not a whole big time red flag in the metrics. He is someone who he doesn't walk, but that's about it. But that's fine, right? Well, we're not talking about OBP here. We're talking about a batting average standard 5 category leagues. That's where he's very valuable. Good batting average, got the power for you. And I think he's someone we got to keep an eye out. Go ahead and scoop up, especially if you need help on your infield. Let's just talk about some pitchers who are on a roll right now. Sean Manaea is getting a lot of helium right now, and for good reason. Over his last 10 starts, he has a 3.56 on the ERA. Over his last 5 starts, he has a 3.09 on the ERA. He destroyed the Pittsburgh Pirates over the weekend. And there's a lot of numbers to like here. Good strikeout to walk numbers. Over his last 10, the 22.9 strikeout, 7.5 on the walk. Over his last 5, it's even better, 25.6% on the strikeout, with the 5.8 on the walk. So good strikeout to walk numbers, but he's allowing a lot of hard contact, a lot of loud contact. And the reason for that is that he has got really inconsistent sweeper control. His sweeper, if you go take a look at the strike rates on the sweeper over his last 4, 5, 6 outings, it's all over the place. He's got some starts where the strike rate on the sweeper is below 50%. He's got some starts where the sweeper strike rate is above 60%. And so you got to so he's got to get that sweeper command and control under control. He's got to get there because that's his whiff pitch. That's the pitch he gets his strikeouts on. And if it's not a pitch that is inducing swings in order to get whiffs, then it's useless. And the only way he's going to get swings is if it's in the zone, and he can induce those swings that way. And if he's not throwing it for strikes, I can't buy into this. The other thing to keep an eye on is that four seam velocity. Over the last 4 or 5 starts, he's been back at around 92 mile an hour plus. On the year, the fastball velocity is just 91. I know it's just a single tick, but it's a huge gain for him because he has great extension. And so if he can just get that fastball velocity back to 92 as opposed to 91 with the type of extension he has, then I will be a little more in on him. He's got to pair that up with sweeper command because that strike rate's all over the place right now. So for Sean Manaea, I am kind of dibbling my toes in him right now. He's not someone who I'm super in on. He is someone who has the Mets right now for his start, and it's going to be a good challenge because the Mets have been on fire since the All-Star break, and so I want to see. He's facing the Braves. Sorry. The Braves represent a major challenge for him. Want to see what he does there. The main thing I'm looking at, four-seam velocity, sweeper strike rate. Those things have to be there for him, for me to call him a rest of season ad. If he cannot do those things, then I cannot be in on him, especially with looking ahead to 2027, is can Manaea have the four-seam velocity and sweeper command that we need for him to be effective? Let's talk about Brandon Pfaadt. He's been a major ad lately with great ratios. Looking at a 132 on the ERA and a 0.97 on the whip. He's doing this by inducing a ton of soft contact with just a 31% hard hit rate and a 4.5 on the barrel. But he's been a major pitch to contact kind of arm right now. But he's not getting whiffs. None. It's like a 12% strike rate, a well below 10% on the swinging strike rate. He's a guy who is currently relying on a wide arsenal of pitches that he utilizes to and mixes and matches his arsenal to fit either what's working or to fit the matchups that he's going up against. So he has a lot of different pitching options, a lot of different pitches that he can throw for strikes, which is a really good thing. But in terms of fantasy, if he's not getting whiffs, he's not getting strikeouts, he's putting a lot of balls into play. That's scary because at any point, a lot of those balls can find holes. Those line drives will find gaps. The fly balls will carry over the fence. There's a lot of things to be scared of when it comes to Brandon Pfaadt. If you want to continue to roll with him based on how hot he has been, I'm okay with that. But it's not something I would wholly rely on for the rest of the year. In fact, if he has a major blow up, I'm probably dropping him after that. Now, I'm not giving him much of a leash on my fantasy rosters. He's someone you're going to ride while he's hot, and as soon as he gives it up, you're going to have to drop him because he's not someone who I can trust is going to be an effective arm rest of season. given how horrible the strike rate is, how horrible the swinging strike rate is. There's no whiffs, none coming right now for Braden Fine. He is purely pitch to contact, hopes he induces soft enough contact for the defense to scoop it up for him. And so far it's worked. He's had a really good ratio since he returned to the rotation, but it's not someone I'm really buying into. He's someone that's going to be, you should have a short leash on when it comes to your fantasy rosters. Let's talk about Joe Musgrove. He's currently on a rehab assignment. He went 3 1/3 through 53 pitches. So that means he's probably going to have one more rehab outing where he's going to get to close to 65 or so pitches, which means he's going to be able to get to 75 or so for his debut. Now, look, don't forget, Joe Musgrove was someone who was a major fantasy arm for a very long time, was really good strikeout to walk numbers. He's had a strikeout rate of 29% or better 5 straight years. 24% or better 5 straight years. A sub 6% walk rate in 3 straight years. A sub 1.17 whip in 4 straight campaigns. He has a sub 3.19 ERA in 3 of his last 4. A sub 4 ERA in his last 5. So don't forget, don't sleep on Joe Musgrove. He has been historically a very effective, solid SP2 in fantasy over his career. And he's coming off a lengthy absence, had September 24 Tommy John surgery. By the way, some good vibes to the Tommy John family. He recently has released his final goodbyes. He's in hospice care. So kudos to Tommy John. Hats off to him and the major impact he's had on baseball. Literally being a guinea pig for one of the biggest advancements in sports medicine is Tommy John surgery. And Tommy John, the man himself, is about to pass away. What a legend he has been. This surgery has saved the careers of countless arms. So hot tapped off to Tommy John. But Joe Musgrove, coming off the surgery, is a deep league stash. He is not someone who I'm picking up in 12 teams. He is someone who I'm watching in 12 teams. If he comes out and deals, if he comes out in his first start or two and isn't walking anybody, has velocities anywhere close to where it was, has good command of his arsenal, and is dealing, he could quickly get on 12-team radars real fast. But I don't think he's worth a stash right now in those setups. I wouldn't do it. I don't think it's worth it because the floor is pretty big, right? He hasn't pitched since the end of 2024. It is now toward the end of 2026. So nearly 2 years removed from the majors. Really risky stash. But if you're in a deeper league, you should go ahead and stash him because I think he is someone who has enough upside to warrant stashing because, those waiver wires, especially with the pitching and those deeper leagues, can be real scary. So for right now, though, I am very much think that for right now, deeper leagues, you got to stash them. Standard leagues are shallower. You leave them on your wire. Jackson Jobe, remember him? That man used to be one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball before he himself had Tommy John surgery. And now he's back. And there are a lot of things I like about what we saw in that first start. This is the type of start that if we see from Joe Musgrove, I would pick him up at 12 teams. I think we're at a point now where Jackson Jobe needs to be rostered everywhere. The upside is imminent. The velocity not only is back for Jackson Jobe, it's actually higher than what it was. You could blame it on the adrenaline from his return for his first start in the majors in a while. But even if it does come back down a little bit, the metrics to his arsenal, the ride on the fastball, the movement on the slider, the profile of the pitches themselves is still very effective. So even if he were to revert back to what we saw, but I don't know. I think this might be legit here. We've seen it before from arms like Peter Lambert, even a guy who had Tommy John surgery, and someone who is providing you even better velocity than what we saw. And it's not like you went up tremendously. We're talking about up 1.8 on the 4-seam, 1.3 on the sinker, 1.2 on the slider. And so that's not there are significant gains, but it's not crazy large. So I do do think that at the end of the day, though, these velocity numbers show that Jackson Jobe is healthy and ready to roll. You have to like the fact that he has a great strike rate in this outing, 64% overall, including a 72% strike rate in the four seam, 66% strike rate on the sinker, 72% strike rate on that slider. So he is controlling his pitches, getting them in the zone. He's not wild. And so those are some huge things to see coming off a lengthy absence. And the velocity is at least there, if not there, and then some. And so I think Jackson Jobe is a major add right now. He is someone that I would pick up all over the place if I had a spot on my roster to do it, because he has that type of major upside, and he is someone that could be a real league winner, considering the stuff he has, a prospect pedigree, what we saw in his first outing. All of those things are a nice little mixture of arguments for why Jackson Jobe needs to be rostered. Talk about real fast about the call up of Jackson Kent in Arizona. He is a guy who is one of those soft tossing lefties that has a plus changeup. And in AAA, he's really put it all together, especially given his extension. I'm very excited about what he can do. He throws a fastball in the low 90s. That changeup, like I said, is plus. You get hit 95 with a fastball, so it's not purely soft. He can ramp it up a little bit, but for the most part, he's going to operate in the low 90s. He has a 3.72 ERA at AAA with a nice 27% strike rate, just a 7.8% on the walk rate. And listen to this, a 68% overall contact with a 14.9 swinging strike rate, a 5% barrel, 29% hard hit, 47% ground balls, missing barrels, inducing ground balls, missing bats. I'm loving what we're seeing from Kent so far. He's got good swing and miss. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of like a Noah Cameron when he first came up last year? A guy is soft tossing lefty with a plus changeup, really focuses and has really good command of his arsenal. That's the type of pitching prospect that provides you with a good floor, right? He's someone that I don't think is going to totally crap the bed. The question is, does he access his upside or not in the majors? We'll have to see about that, but I think he has a good enough floor that I think he should be added in deeper leagues right now. In 12-teamers, if he comes out dealing, he becomes real quick he gets in the 12-team radar real quick himself. So definitely keep it on the Jackson Kent call-up. Let's see here. Getting in some injury stuff here. Tyler Glasnow is on a rehab. He went 2 1/3 in his last rehab outing, threw 47 pitches. So he's going to get one more rehab outing after this. Going to get him up to around 55 to 60 pitches, which means when he returns toward the end of the month, he'll probably be up 70 to 75 pitches. We all know about the upside of Glasnow. I don't think I have to get into why Glasnow is a good pitcher. The big thing you got to keep an eye out, though, for fantasy is how will the Dodgers monitor his innings? And that's the same thing with Blake Snell. It's going to be the same thing with Shohei Ohtani if he ever does return to the mound before the season ends. It's going to be the same thing for Yamamoto. It's going to be the same thing for Tariq Skubal, who also is coming off elbow surgery just this year. So you got to keep an eye on these guys' innings. Keep an eye on how the Dodgers are utilizing them. I know the Dodgers are on a skid right now. People are making a big hoopla over over their losing streak, about how they're not winning a lot right now. I'm not buying it. I think the Dodgers are still the Dodgers. The Dodgers are still playing for October. They're still trying. They're still keeping their team back a little bit in order to be ready for October. There's no question they make the playoffs, and I don't think they care if they win the division. If the Dodgers just need to make the playoffs, they're going to make their run there. In order for them to make that run, they got to get into the playoffs healthy. And so they're going to do things to keep Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani, keep these Tariq Skubal, going to keep them all healthy so that when it comes time for the playoffs, they have their 5 aces to roll, and they're going to be able to roll the competition in October. So keep an eye on how they utilize their pitchers, because they're going to limit them. That means they're going to be limiting their starts. They're going to do things like pull Glasnow early when they get to 5 or 6 innings with 50 to 60 pitches. They're going to pull. They're going to push back starts. They're going to give guys like Eric Lauer spot starts. They're going to give guys like Justin Robleski those additional starts to push back and give more rest to some of their key arms. So keep an eye on that. Do not be overly reliant on Dodger starters, especially in your fantasy playoffs, because the 2-start week turns to the 1-start week. A start that is scheduled to happen at the weekend might not happen. And so keep an eye on that. Those are things that could really come back to bite you in the fantasy playoffs. So make sure you have a contingency plan in place in case your Dodger starters do get pushed back during your playoffs, because that can really tank you. So definitely keep an eye on those things. Michael Soroka is going to make his return from the IL from a left glute strain. He's been on the shelf since mid-June, so it's going to be good to see him come back, but I'm not overly excited about him. We got a 307 on the ERA, and the FIP is a nice 292 with a good whip of 109. The strikeout rate is 23.7 to a 5.1 of the walk. However, it's only a 9.4 swinging strike rate. And the only whiff pitch he really has is his slurve that has a big breaking slurve. With the 33% on the whiff rate for it. And it's only one pitch that he has a really good whiff rate offering. It's still an overall sub 10% on the swinging strike rate. So I do kind of question just how much strikeout upside Soroka is going to bring to the table. I think he is more of he's kind of a very fringe 12-team guy, a guy who you're probably going to hope returns good ratios with the occasional good strikeout start. He's probably, in my book, he's just a 12-team streamer. He's just someone that I'm going to pick up a start against good offenses, against bad offenses. He's not someone who I'm holding on to rest of the year. Think of him as a step up from Brandon Pfaadt. Because Brandon Pfaadt doesn't have any whiff pitches. None of his pitches have a good whiff rate. At least Soroka has a good whiff offering. And so think of him as a step above Pfaadt. He's someone you're looking at, is streaming and picking him up when he has the matchup. But he's not someone who I'm really targeting as a rest of season, keep on my bench and hold on to him for the rest of the year kind of guy. He's someone that I've just viewed as a 12-team stream. Of course, deeper leagues, you want to probably have him. He's a good deep league guy. Let's see here. Adley Rutschman is looking like he potentially could return on Tuesday. He's currently with the team and he's currently with the Red Sox and working out with the team. They have an off day on Monday, and so he might return on Tuesday. And look, I think he is a 12-team guy. I think he's someone that he's not. I think we know what he is at this point. He's a guy who's not going to have elite hard hit metrics. He's not going to have like a 10% barrel rate and a 50% hard hit rate, but he's going to have a great hit tool. It's going to make a lot of contact, put a lot of those balls into play, and he's going to have a good enough barrel rate, a good enough hard hit rate to get him some power. And so he's going to have a barrel rate of around 78%. He's going to have a hard hit rate in the high 30s, maybe touch the low 40s. And that's going to be good enough for a guy that makes as much contact as he does. And that's going to get him, especially batting in Fenway. I think it's a great park to get doubles and get a lot of extra base hits. A little bit of home run as well, because he can lift and pull the ball. And so I do think he's going to get a little bit of power. He's going to get you a lot of extra base hits, a lot of RBI. I'm going to be really interested in seeing what they do with him when he doesn't catch. Masataka Yoshida has been getting a lot of the DH at bats, and he's been okay. But I do think that eventually Adley Rutschman is going to be the DH where he's not catching. He's an upgrade, in my opinion, over Yoshida. And I think the Red Sox are going to realize that pretty quickly. And so I think that's what's going to get Adley Rutschman to be a top 5 or 6 catcher next year, is if he becomes the designated hitter when he's not catching. Because if he's a guy that can get to 600 plus plate appearances, then he's going to be able to accumulate and get you to 15 to 20 home runs with 80 to 90 RBI and run score with a decent batting average. But he's got to be able to accumulate. If he is just catching and he's not DHing, that's going to hurt his volume. And he's still a 12-team one-catcher guy, but I think he's more of a top 10 to 12 guy in that situation. So in my opinion, keep an eye on his usage. Keep an eye on if he gets those DH at-bats when he's not catching. Because if he does, that's great for his fantasy value headed in the next year and great for you this year. If he doesn't, that can really hurt. So definitely keep an eye on that situation. Keep an eye on Kyle Stowers as well. He left the game on Sunday with left hamstring discomfort. MRI is happening today on Monday, so see what happens. He's a lot like Griffin Conine, but he's not a platoon. A big time power bat with questionable in the hit tool. But right now though, that contact rate is at close to 70%, which is where I want it to be for a power bat like Stowers. As long as he can keep that contact rate in the range of 70%, I'm going to be in on Kyle Stowers. It's going to give him enough contact to get access to his power to provide you what you need in fantasy and not totally tank the batting average. Yeah, he's always probably going to bat 220, 230, but it's not going to be Esmerlyn Valdez type where he's going to be sub 200, right? He's going to have a decent enough batting average to not totally tank you. And that's what you're looking for, right? When you got a guy who can provide you with 30 plus home run power, you want to make sure that batting average isn't going to totally kill you. And the batting average hit for him isn't going to help you. But if he can keep it in that 220, 230 range, then he's going to be able to provide you just enough to not totally tank you there. But for right now, just keep an eye on the injury and see what happens. Cooper Pratt went on the injured list with a hamstring issue of his own. And it's been a really good rookie campaign for Cooper Pratt so far. He's batting 272 with a great line drive rate of 26%. He's got 10 steals, really good start to his career, but you're not holding on to him in 12-team leagues, especially at shortstop. Go pick up somebody like Andrew Monasterio. I think he's somebody you really can go pick up right now to replace Cooper Pratt. And I think deep leagues, you probably hold on to Pratt, but you drop Pratt in 12-teamers. Griffin Jax went on the injury list with elbow discomfort, and that's disappointing. He really turned his career around as a starting pitcher after being roughed up as a reliever with a 3.63 on the ERA, 26% strikeout rate, sub 8% on the walk rate. But he's throwing 91 pitches this year, and he's not someone who hasn't been a starter in about 5 years. And so this injury is probably a direct result of him stretching himself out as a starting pitcher and dramatically increasing his volume. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. I don't know if someone's going to be back this year or not. I've got to wait to see what the results are from the imaging. So keep an eye on that. But this is probably a result of the increased usage. That's got to be it. And he's someone who I really hope is fine because he has a starter's arsenal. He's not like a reliever that just has one great pitch. He has a deep arsenal of pitches, and he's really good at sequencing. He's really good at piecing it all together to get the strikeouts. And we saw that this year. I just read off the numbers. He is someone that has a great upside as a starting pitcher. We just got to see if he can get through this elbow discomfort. Got two more names to talk about. First, Carlos Rodon is one rehab outing away. He's been a great injury stash since he went down, and we learned the injury wasn't that serious. He's got great ratios now to go with the strikeout rate. Remember, Carlos Rodon, in my opinion, I was out on him just a couple of years ago because he was a great strikeout arm with a major risk to your ratios. But now he's introduced a sinker, I believe, to his arsenal where he's able to get out of innings a little faster, inducing some soft contact, missing some barrels, inducing ground balls more now as well. And I think that's been great for his fantasy value. He's someone that isn't overly reliant on the strikeout pitch like he once was. And so that's why I'm very much in on Carlos Rodon. And he is definitely someone that was a worthwhile stash. And now he's on the verge of returning. And then Vladimir Guerrero is looking like he's going to play through some hamstring inflammation. And that's admirable, right? Because the Blue Jays are not out of it, even though they were like half sellers, half buyers at the deadline, but they're not out of the playoff picture. And Vladimir Guerrero is that team leader, no matter how poorly he's performed this year. And so seeing him fight through and play through some inflammation in his hamstring is good to see. And of course, with him, it's going to be, can he finally turn? He still has a great bat speed, right? He is still one of the fastest bats in the majors. The question is, can he finally turn that bat speed into something? Can he get back to what he was? Because he has the tool, he has the ability, He did hit a home run on Sunday after announcing he's going to play through the inflammation. And so the power is still there. It's in theory. The question is, can it come back in practice? At this point in the year, you're stuck with them. You're not dropping them, right? Because it's a near first round pick. You're not dropping him. The upside is way too much for you to drop him. But the question is, can he finally tap in to the type of production we know that he can provide? And of course, he's going to have a ground ball problem. That's fine. He just has to get the barrel rate up enough in order to provide enough power to go with what should be a good batting average for the rest of the year. And so for Vladimir Guerrero, you just got to hope he can tap into that power that the bat speed says he should have. All right. So that brings me to the podcast, y'all. Thank y'all so much for joining me. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to give all the podcasts, give y'all some information, advice, help you with your leads, give your team the booth. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at Paul W_34. That's at Paul W_34. Ask the questions, hit me up. Let's go win those titles, y'all. Make sure you check out the blurb feed at sportsethos.com. Go to the MLB tab, click on the blurb feed. Free fantasy baseball analysis right there for you at your fingertips. Also, don't forget about the app. Sports Ethos has an app, so make sure you search for the app on the App Store. And one last ask, please rate and subscribe to the podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast. Really help push out. I will love you forever. I'm Paul Williamson. This has been Fantasy MLB Today, a Sports Ethos presentation brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all have a good one.